Okay, this should be working now. Alex Treslo, captain of the Julius-type freightship GE-95, owned by the Celtrek Corporation, home planet Earth. Date of this recording, May 18th, 2092, time 17:02. Purpose of the recording, reconstruction and elaboration on the incident which occurred on January 7th this year, which resulted in the loss of the freightship GE-95, as well as two crew members, Patricia Harris and Lance Hetford. There's always something special about sleeping on those freight ships. The Julius-type freight ships are equipped with TX-11 sleep capsules. It's an invention by the Celtrek Corporation. The journeys can be quite long and we have to be efficient even asleep. So in order to fall asleep quickly and be able to sleep through for a couple of hours, those capsules emit a very small portion of TSXY gas. The gas is very soothing. Very slowly you drift away. You feel just very light. And before you can even think about it, you're gone. There are no dreams. You're just somewhere out in space in a deep slumber. Usually the gas release is stopped after 6.5 hours, but it was different on that 7th of January. I was woken up quite unpleasantly. Something must have been wrong. Only 4 hours went by and slight electronic impulses made me wake up quite harshly. When I got up, the two capsules next to me were already empty. Harry's and Hatford's obviously had already been gone. I was trying to figure out what was happening, but all I could perceive was that continuous beeping of the internal analysis computer. A red screen was visible from where I was standing. I walked up to the terminal and it showed a malfunction in the heating circulation, which was weird. wondering what caused that malfunction. I mean, to be honest, those Julius-type freight ships, they're quite old and in some cases poorly maintained. Hell, I remember boarding one of those vessels a few years ago when the engine was in such bad condition we couldn't even get that piece of junk running. Damn, we even had to short-circuit the... I digress. Anyway, I was trying to figure out what the problem was. Was it just a usual malfunction? Was something stuck somewhere? But on second thought, that wasn't possible. See, there's a mechanism which can take care of most of the minor malfunctions on board and self-repair them. Which makes sense. I mean, if we'd be woken up by every little malfunction, we wouldn't get one single minute of sleep. So I was reading the terminal protocol, and all of a sudden we've lost more elements. Ventilation, lights, redundant systems, backup systems, and some of the power was lost, including the coffee machine. I couldn't wait for Hatford to return. That man gets real cranky if he doesn't get his coffee. But seriously, there was something major going wrong. To be honest, I was a little afraid. More than I like to admit as a captain. Was quite dark due to the partial power loss. The emergency power supply could only keep the most vital elements running. Light was definitely not one of those vital elements. The dark room was merely lit by all the red screens on the various computer terminals. Suddenly I heard Harris coming back. She was moving slowly and weirdly. As she came closer, I realized why. She was in utter shock. I asked her what's happened. She tried to utter some words. I couldn't really understand what the hell she was trying to say. It was, and after a few attempts, I think I've heard Hatford. I asked her what happened to him. I asked her over and over again, Harris, what happened to Hatford? What happened? Harris, what happened to Hatford? It was really hard to understand a word. She was trying to talk, but nothing coming out of her mouth made sense or was remotely understandable. It was intense. I was trying to fix some of the systems via the terminal. We had even more problems now. Some of the areas of the ship were under emergency lockdown, so I tried to override those manually, and I was looking back over my shoulder all the time, and Harris was just sitting there, staring into the air, and her eyes were like dead. I kept wondering what she had seen that shocked her so much. Now at that point it was more than obvious that we've had to abandon ship. There were just too many damages and too many vital systems were malfunctioning. It would have been just ill-advised to try to save the ship. Now things had to happen fast. I mean, our ship was in an unstable course. And God knows what could have happened to it. I mean, any of those problems could have caused the ship to either explode or implode or sink. You name it. So it was clear we'd have to get off this ship. Quickly. Very quickly. But of course, there was another problem. The escape pod wasn't powered anymore. There was only one solution. We'd have to rewire two systems. Take the power away from one emergency system and route it to that damn pod so we could jettison it. Too bad the station where we could do that was at the end of the hallway in the opposite direction. There was only one person left who could do that. Harris. The very woman who completely lost her mind. Both our lives were in the hands of a woman whom I wouldn't trust with a water gun anymore. I tried to talk some sense into her, shake her a bit, and try to explain why I needed her badly. For both our sakes. After all, she seemed to realize what I wanted to say, and she was on her way. I was preparing everything, try to keep some of the systems online so things wouldn't go south much more and we'd stay in the course, at least for a little bit longer. Suddenly Harris was trying to get in touch by radio. She was in that narrow hallway approaching the terminal to start the rewiring. I took out my PDA to monitor the status and see exactly where she is. See, the PDA had a blueprint of the ship on it and a motion tracker built in. I could see she was at the terminal. I had to clear it in the control room so she could start the process. A few minutes later it was done. The escape pod could now be jettisoned. I told Harris to return. I could see her moving on my PDA. She was symbolized by a blinking, beeping blue dot going through the virtual outline of the hallway, coming back toward the control room. All of a sudden, there was another blue dot behind her. I told her to move faster. The blue dot behind her was closing in. Faster, faster. It was catching up. I don't know what the hell it was, but I just heard Harris scream, and the two blue dots were gone. I have no idea what happened. I still cannot explain or think of anything. Well, maybe I can think of something, but I don't want to admit what it could have been. I know I had to move fast now. I know that I had to run. I had to run. I had to run as fast as I can to get to the escape pod. The escape pod launched and I was flying away from GE-95. It was weird. What I felt inside was something I never felt before. It was relief, guilt, confusion. Lots of things. I thoroughly read the subsequent investigation report, which was commissioned by the Celltrack Corporation. It was very poorly executed, but one tiny detail caught my attention. According to line 13 on page 7, the second escape pod was jettisoned shortly before the ship's impact on the surface of planet Xavier 2 in the Kaloon system. Now the report concludes that it happened due to a short circuit, and it was nothing more than a, in layman's terms, mishap. I just can't help but thinking how that would be possible. When Harris rewired the power to the escape pod, there was only enough energy left to activate one of the pods. How, for the love of God, was it possible then for the second escape pod to